Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here, and in this instructional video we're going to take a look at starting a new drawing, setting up some user preferences, learning a little bit about the user interface, and then creating a mechanical drawing template that we will save right here into this welcome window area, which is our template area, so that every time we create a new drawing we don't have to go through all that setup. Now this video might end up being a little bit lengthy, but I'm going to create it in chunks and I will put some timestamps into the information area so that you can select the portion of the instructional video that will be helpful to you. Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here, and now that we have opened up the AutoCAD application, we're going to create a new drawing by going to the welcome window and selecting create new acad.dwt and pressing open. Now a .dwt is a drawing template file extension, but if you look up at the top in the middle it says that we have opened up a .dwg, and that is exactly what we want to happen. Now, this is our drawing interface, but before we get into that, we're just going to set up some of our user preferences. To open the user preferences, go up to the top left menu bar, select AutoCAD 2022 and Preferences, and you can see right here that it says the shortcut is Command and comma. So if I move my cursor to the middle of the screen and just hold Command and press comma, you can see that the application processes window or preferences window opens up. So in the general tab we want to select enable quick secondary click as the return key, and over to the right I would change this down to a 5-minute auto save. Remember that you can manually save just by pressing Command and S. And what will it save as? Well, it tells you right here it's going to save with a drawing extension .dwg in a 2018 AutoCAD format. There are other file extensions that you can select from, and you can do that just by using the save as function when you're saving your drawing. The zoom speed, I like to slow mine down to about right there. That gives me enough control and still enough speed to be proficient and quick. And below that, in the last little box here, the language, well, I'm speaking English, so I'm going to select English. If you speak, read, write, and understand any of these other languages, that's awesome, but please select English since the lessons and tutorials will be in that language. Let's go to the next tab, which is cursor and selection. Now I'm going to close the application's preferences just for a second, but I'm going to do that by pressing OK. That will save all my changes. If I go to the top left like we're used to doing as Mac users and press that red little circle, the window will close, but I won't have any of my changes that I made saved. So right in the middle of the screen, that is the crosshairs and pick box that you can see. So when we go back into our window right here, you can see that we can make the crosshairs and the pick box larger, and that's again just based on your preference, and I can also change the color if I want to. So I'm just going to press OK again so we can see what those changes look like. And you know, if you make some changes and you don't like them, remember you can just go back in there and try out some new settings. So whatever you like. This is where I prefer to have mine set at just past the little 2 hash marks on each one of those. Now what about these auto snap markers and these grips right here? Well, I will demonstrate those as well. So I'm just going to press OK again. I'm going to draw a quick line and a circle. And now if I was to select these 2 items, notice that all these blue dots or squares show up. Those are the grips. Now I can hover on the grip and it gives me some information. I can select lengthen, which allows me to make the line shorter or to make the line longer. I can grab the middle grip, which allows me to move it around. The outside grip, again, also if I click on it, allows me to change sort of the angle and position of that end point. With the circle, I can grab it in the middle here and move it around, and I can grab one of the outside on the outside quadrants, one of the grips there, and I can make the circle larger or smaller. Okay, now if I want to say make another line or a circle, we'll make a circle, for example, and now as I move close to the line here, you can see that, ooh, there's a green little grip point that just showed up on the end. So even if I click right here, it's going to start making the circle on the end of that line right there. Okay, now those grip points there, you'll notice that the end point showed up there. But if I go down to the bottom right hand of the screen and I go into the object snap and right click and go settings, I can now add or delete some of these options. So the one that was turned off was nearest, and now if I click OK and I do that again, you'll notice that this little hourglass symbol shows up, and when I slide towards the middle of the line, it's going to change that triangle, which is going to be the midpoint. Okay, now if I'm drawing another line, it's the same thing. I can choose this point, which is the end of the line, which is also the center of the circle. And now if I want to go to the quadrant of this circle, I can come down to the bottom and it makes that little diamond shape. So those are the grips and snap point symbols, and I'm not going to delete that really quickly, so I'll just go back into our window right here. Now I can make those larger and larger. Those are going to be ridiculously larger, and click OK. And now when I select on these, the blue dots are really, really big. And when I go to make a new shape, for example, they're going to be larger symbols as well. So again, those are 100% user preferences. I usually keep mine here on number 4 and just above the number 1 right there, and that seems to work for me. The next tab is units and guides. I would just make sure that both of these are on millimeters. That's enough changes to make there. In the look and feel, what you see in the background for our drawing, the drawing space is the model space. That's where we do all our drawing, and the paper space is where we sort of set up our drawing to be printed. I would leave the paper space at the default white, but the model space you can change to whatever color seems to work for you, what you prefer, or what feels good on your eyes, and also what works with the layer colors that we'll be setting up. Okay, and that is good enough for the application preferences. Don't forget, do not click on the red circle, click on the OK, and all of those will be saved for you. Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here, and now that we have our preferences all set up, we're going to take a look at these interface windows that are on the left, top, right, and bottom of our drawing space here. In the middle, that is our drawing space, that gray area, but off to the left-hand side, that is our tool set. Up on the top, we've got 2 of them right here. That's the toolbar and the file tab. Over to the right, we can actually see layers and properties, but there's 3 little tabs up top, and if I click on the next one, that's my reference manager, and on the next one are my blocks. Usually where I keep it is on the layers and properties window right here. And down on the bottom, we have our status bar. Now, we can open and close these by going up to the top where it says window, and you can see that all the ones that I have open have a check mark beside them, except the blocks and reference manager. So it looks like they're not open, but as long as blocks, layers, or reference manager one of them is selected, then all three of them should be available for you on the right hand side. But that being said, you can close them. As you notice, the reference manager is a command 7 to close it, and the blocks is a command 2. So if you look over on the right hand side, and if I hold command 7 and I can close that, and if I go command 2, I can close that as well. But if I want to bring them back, I just need to reverse those processes. Okay, so I'm gonna again select the layers and properties here. Now again, I can use the shortcuts that are off to the side right here to close any of them, or I can come up to the Windows area. And this happens quite often with individuals new to AutoCAD. Is sometimes you'll accidentally close a window and then you're wondering where everything has gone. So if I hit command 1 by accident, and also my tool sets are gone, and now I'm wondering how to reopen them. If I forget the shortcut, I can just head up top and choose Windows and reopen the tool sets. Now, most commonly what disappears are layers and properties. So right to the right side, on the very far right of the interface, there's this little docking symbol. Now if I click on that, it opens up my layers window where I can create new layers or modify any existing layers. And again, as AutoCAD users, when we go to close a window, we usually head up to the top left. And now if you click on that X, the window has disappeared. So it's no longer on the right hand side. And if I go up to Window, I can reopen it again just by clicking and selecting it right here. Now it pops back into my drawing space. If I want it docked over to the right side, I want to click on that little docking symbol right here and place it over on the right hand side. Okay, now up in the top, we've got a File tab, and that's this one right here that's listing the current drawings that are open. I definitely keep that open because many times you'll be working with several different drawings at the same time, and it just allows you to quickly tab between them. But above that is our toolbar, and these have just some little quick buttons that you can click on to save or open new files or print. And generally I don't use those very often. I'll use the commands, the shortcut commands, and if I do need that, I can just open that up. So if I want to close that one down, it'll give me just a tiny little bit of vertical working space in my drawing area. Not so much important for myself as I'm working on a big 27-inch monitor, but if you're working on a 13-inch laptop, it becomes the real estate that you're working with becomes quite small the more of these windows that you have open. So I'm just going to go here and close that toolbar right there. Gives me a little bit of extra space, and if I want to, I can quickly close the windows off to the left and to the right just by going Command and Shift and H. And again, that gives me a lot more area to work with. And generally, we're using the keyboard to open up commands such as line, circle, and modifying commands like trim and offset. But if I do need those windows and some of the functions available within them, again, I just hold Command, Shift, and H to open them up again. Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here, and now we're going to take a look at the interface window, which is on the bottom of the screen, and that is our status bar. This is a really important area to get a good understanding of because it's a dynamic area, which means you should be changing the settings as the requirements of your drawing change throughout the drawing process. So let's move over to the far left hand side, and you can see that it says model. That means it's displaying in the middle here the model space, and that's where we do most of our drawing, within this gray area that you see in the middle. Now if I click on this one that says layout, that takes us to a layout, which is a piece of paper. Now this one defaults to, I believe, an A4 size paper, but we will go in there and change that later on. And I can also add new ones right here. So you can see at the bottom we now have 3 layout tabs. So I'm going to move back into model space and come over to the right hand side. So down at the bottom, this is where we're going to make most of our changes. So as you can see, as I move my mouse, these numbers with decimals are changing. Those are the X and Y and Z coordinates. So if I move over near the USC symbol down towards the origin, it should get closer and closer to 0, 0, 0. Okay, now beside that is a tab that is highlighted in blue right now with a bunch of lines going in a vertical and a bunch of lines going in a horizontal direction, and that is our grid. And if you hover over top of it, it will tell you what it is. It says it is the grid, and you can use the Control G to turn it on and off. Okay, or I can just click on it. Blue means on and blacked out means that it is off. Okay, beside that is our snap. Now what the snap does is we can set the snap so that it will, instead of having infinite sort of decimals being displayed as you're drawing objects, it will snap every interval that you set up. So for example, if I set that to a snap of 1 millimeter, I would be able to draw a line that is 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, 3, 4, 5, etc. If I set it to 0.5, then I would make lines of 0.51, 1.52, 2.53, etc. Now you're not stuck with those dimensions. You can always override them at any time. Okay, and again, black right now it's off, and if I click on the blue one, it is on. Okay, and right there you can see that it says Command B should be able to turn that on and off quickly. And now let's look to the right of that one. That's ortho mode. So I will demonstrate this one really quickly. What that does, if I'm making a line and I anchor it right here, you'll notice that I can sort of draw at any angle right here. But if I turn that one on, which again you can see is a Command L, so if I'm just here and I go Command L, now I'm sort of forced to only draw in a horizontal or a vertical direction. So this is good if you are drawing something that you know only has horizontal and vertical lines. But again, if necessary, I can always override this function or just turn it on and off as I feel the requirements are needed. So Command L, and I'm back out of there again. Okay, and I'm just going to hit Escape, and that will get me out of that command. And let's take a look at the next one. So it says polar tracking. So what polar tracking does is allows me to snap to specific angles on that for that line, and it will produce a green dashed line indicating that I'm in the snapped position. So again, if I go L, enter, and I anchor that line, you see I'm trying to find the horizontal, and even if I was to land right here at 0, it says it's at 0, but it's not really. It's a little bit more or a little bit less, and it's being rounded up. So I need to turn that one on. So when we come down here again, I can click on that, or I can use the shortcut, which is Command U. So if I go Command U, it is now turned on, and as I come up here to the 0, it's going to snap there and give me that little green line. Okay, now it depends what it's set to and where these green lines will appear. Now as I move further up, you can see I'm 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's snapped in at 15. So every 15 degrees, there's 30, there's 45, there's 60, there's 75 and 90, and so on and on. Okay, now I'm just going to escape out of there, and I can escape out by using the escape button, but I can also press the right button on the mouse. So if I go down below and I want to change some of these settings, you can just right click on it and you see it brings up some changes that I can make right here. So if yours is set to 90, just switch that down to 15. Okay, now beside that right here is the dynamic input. That is what allows me to go into the middle of the screen and type a command, and it brings up this window giving me other information. And if I was to turn that off, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start typing, and it just doesn't work the same way, and it's very frustrating. So again, sometimes students will go down below and accidentally turn that off, and they're wondering why they can't access any of their shortcut commands anymore. And just be aware that you can just come down here and turn this on by clicking on it and ensuring that it is blue. Okay, now beside that is the show hide the line weight. So we can't really, I can't really illustrate how this works, but basically lines have thickness. So it's got what we call a line weight. So if I set the line weight, then if I turn that function on, we'll see that one line could be visually thicker than the other. Okay, and as we get into some drawings, we will take a look at that. So sometimes I turn that on and sometimes I turn that off. Okay, show hide transparency. Usually I just keep that one off, and we can look further into what that does as it's needed. The one to the right of that, which is your group selection, this one is very useful, and a lot of people forget that they can use this function right here. So basically, as I create an object, say a circle with another circle and another circle, we sort of have three different objects here, 1, 2, and 3. But if I want to, I can group these, so put them all together. So I go G, enter, that allows me to select it, and now it's a group. So now when I click on it one time, it selects everything. But let's just say I want to delete this middle circle right here, and I just say E for erase, and it's like, what do you want to erase? And I say that, and the whole thing's gone. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back by going Command Z, and now I'm going to go down to where this group selection is. I'm going to turn that off. Now it allows me to go in there and actually select individual components or objects within that group, modify them as necessary, then I can go back and turn on that function so that it is a group again. Okay, so I usually leave that on until I need to go in and modify a group. Now beside that is our object snap tracking, and what that allows me to do is to line up objects. So for example, if I make a rectangle, and I'm going to make that rectangle, let's say 10 by 10, and now I'm going to make a circle that's going to be, the center of the circle is going to be exactly in line with the top of this rectangle. So I can go C for circle, and it's asking me to place my circle somewhere. Now it's around right there that I want it, but that's not going to be perfectly in line with the top of this. But if I just hover on that end point, and I don't click the mouse or anything, and now slide to the right, you can see that it starts to make a green line indicating that I am perfectly in line with that. Now I can just type in, like, say 55, and now I'm starting to make a circle 5 units to the right and perfectly in line with that. And I'll just give this a radius of 2. Okay, now it works the same with, say, copying this. So if I go CO for copy and I copy it, now it's asking me where do I want to grab it, and I'll grab it in the center here. Now again, I want to be perfectly in line right here, so I just touch that corner, and then I slide this way, and I'll say 5, enter, and it gets, whoops, that moved it 5 from there. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to now touch this point right here and slide over. Okay, and now I can type in 5, enter, and it's 5 to the left of that and perfectly in line with the bottom corner. Okay, I can do the same thing with a rectangle. If I make a rectangle, I can line it up with this bottom corner and start right here and like that, and those are perfectly in line. Okay, and let's look at the last one, which is object snap, and this is what allows us to get these little green squares and the symbols at different points within the object. So how can we go in and change some of these settings? Well, if we go to, say, the first one, which is the grid, and right click and choose settings, and that's going to bring up the settings window, and I would make these settings to begin with. We'll make the snap at 1 and 1. We will turn the snap on, we'll turn the grid on, and we're going to set the grid spacing to 1 and 1 with a major line every 10 units. Okay, we're going to deselect this one, display grid beyond limits. The grid, we can set the size of our drawing grid, and we don't want to see anything past that. We can still draw outside of the grid. It's just the grid is indicating our sort of area that we've sort of limited ourselves to. Okay, so we're going to turn that one off. Let's go to the next one, which is polar tracking. And again, for this first unit, I would recommend using a snap angle of 15 degrees, and you can even add your own angles if necessary. Now, some of these other settings like absolute and relative, as we get further into more advanced drawings, we can change some of these settings. Okay, the object snap, I would select all of these right here. Your end point, which is the end of a line, midpoint, which is the middle of a line, the center, which is the center of the circle, where it was drawn from, where we can pull our radius from. The geometric center is a weird one. It's the center of a rectangle or square. Okay, the quadrant down here are the 4 corners of a circle. So the top, bottom, right, and left. An intersection is where 2 lines cross at any angle. And the next one that I have turned on is perpendicular. That is where 2 lines meet or cross, forming a 90-degree or right angle. A tangent, it will allow you to draw a line off of a circle that will be perpendicular to the radius coming from the center of the circle. And the last one is nearest. This one gets turned on and off quite a bit. Sometimes it's very useful, but sometimes it hinders what you're trying to do. Okay, so make sure that those are turned on, and the other 2, we don't need to worry about them specifically right now, but some changes could be made within the dynamic input as we're working. Okay, down here it has a little tab to get back into our preferences window as well. Okay, let's click OK, and once we're done making all those changes, we can click OK. Now, look down below and you can see that there, right here, that is my grid. And remember, we selected that little button that said, do not display beyond the limits. So we need to go and change a couple things right away. So first, make sure your crosshairs are in the middle of your screen or somewhere within the drawing space, and type units, UNITS, and press enter. And we're going to reduce the precision down to 1 decimal place and change the units from inches to millimeters. Okay, once that's done, again, don't press that red button, but press OK to save the changes. So now we're drawing in units, and if you were look down at the XY coordinates in the status bar and move your mouse around, you should notice that there's only 1 decimal place being represented now. Okay, the next thing we need to do is set up our limits, And we're going to set up our limits in this case to the size of an A3 drawing paper, which is 420 millimeters in the X and 297 millimeters in the Y. And you can see where the bottom left corner of our grid is. It's right down at the USC symbol where the XY meet, and that is at the origin of 0, 0. So again, put your crosshairs in the middle of your screen and type LIMITS for limits. Hit enter, and now it's saying specify the bottom left corner. Well, I already stated that that is going to be 0, 0, and then press enter. And now it's saying what is the upper right corner, and that is going to be 420, 297, and press enter. Now our grid extends too far to the right and too far above. You can use just your mouse wheel to zoom in and bring that into the center of your screen, and there you have that. Okay, now if for some reason it wouldn't zoom all the way back in, you can type regen all, and that will allow you to zoom a little bit more. Or if it's just way out there, you can do a couple things. One, you can double tap your scroll wheel, which brings it back in, or you can type Z enter for zoom and E enter for the extents, which is everything in your drawing space, and it will bring it back there again. Okay, just a couple more things to look at right here. And basically the one I want to look at, only one more thing really, is the little cog wheel in the status wheel at the very end. If we click on that, it opens up a menu where we can deselect some things so they're not shown within the status bar, or I can select new things to be shown in the status bar. Okay, there are a few more things in the status bar that are in there by default, and at this point they're not necessary to know how to use them, but we will learn about them later on. Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here, and we're getting closer to having our template completed. But the next thing we need to take a look at is going to be our layers. So we need to open the layers window, and to do that, just go over to the right hand side and click on that little docking symbol at the top, and that will bring the layers window into the middle. And if it's really small like this, just grab the corner and stretch that out. Now, there's one default layer, which is layer 0. We're not going to change that. And above that, you can see that I can actually grab some of these things and move them around. I should be able to change the position of them, and or grab a grip point and stretch it out to make it more visible. So we're gonna make some layers. And the layers that we're going to make are going to be these ones right here. So you can take a snapshot of that or a picture, or just come back to this point in the video. And first of all, I'm going to show you how to just make the first two layers, which is the border and center line layer. And then from there, you should be able to complete the rest of the layers by looking at the information on this list. Okay, so let's go back into our screen, and the bottom left of this window, it says new layer. Now, if it comes up and says, hey, you're unable to modify layers, you're in a command, just say OK. You can see back here I've started making a little selection box. I'm just going to press escape, and now I should be able to go back in there and make a new layer. The layer is going to be written using uppercase, so turn your caps lock on and type border and hit enter. And beside the border, there's a little box. We're going to click on that, and that is the color. Now for the border, it was a blue color, and it said line weight is 0.7, and that is this one right here. This is the line weight, and it just goes, hey, I'm just going to make a default line weight right now. but I'm going to scroll down to 0.7, and it says the line type, which is right here, is continuous, and that what is selected right now. Okay, and as you can see, I can move these over to, if it's hiding what you've input for a name there, you can just slide that over so it's visible. And each one of these spots right here should have a little spot that you can slide it over. So if it looks like 0 and nothing there, just slide that over so you can see it. Also, you can go down to the bottom right and choose View Options. And one thing you want to do is make sure that all of those sort of categories are selected. And also, once you've finished inputting everything, you can just say Optimize all columns, and it sort of sets them up in what they call an optimal position. I usually slide that over so I can see the full name, and it's done. Okay, let's go add our second layer. So new layer. What's the name of this one? It is Center, and I'm going to hit Enter, and it says the color is 84. So when I go here, there is no 84. So what you do is go to Select Color, and just right here it says Color Blue. You can just type in 84. Now, how do I get that number 84? Just by coming up here and sort of hovering on things. So if I go right here and I just click, it tells me that's number 85, and below that it is 87, and above that is 83, and up here somewhere will be 84. Okay, so that is the color that I chose right there, and click OK. It says the line weight is 0.25, which is right there, and it says the line type is center. Now here's the line type. I click on there, and it's only giving me one option, which is continuous. So I'm going to say manage. Still no option for us, so I'm going to load it. And here are all the other options that I have. So I can scroll down. It's in alphabetical order till I find center, which is right there, and I can select that and add it to here, and then I can select center and then say OK, and now you can see that that one has changed to a center line type. Now I could go in there, and rather than adding one at a time, I can just go manage, load, and then within this area here that has all the different line types, I'm just going to go Command A to select them all and add, and it says reload all selected line types, and there we go. Now I've got all the line types that are possible. I just click on center and OK, and there we have it. So once you're done setting up all these layers, you will just go to the right top corner in the little docking symbol, click on that to put it back over here to the right. Now within the windows here, there are some little buttons up here that we can choose. So I just want to go over a couple of them really briefly. So this one right here, which says freeze a layer. So sometimes you'll be going to draw and it just won't allow you to select that layer, and that's because you've frozen it, which means you can't use it anymore. And beside that one is turning the layer off, which means you can't see it, or turning it on, which means you can see it. And beside this one, you've locked the layer so you can't do anything to it. Now if I open this little drop down list right here, you can see that beside the center there's a circle. If I now click on that, it makes a sort of an empty circle, which means that the layer is hidden. Now I'm going to go into the properties inspector down below, and I'm going to go to layer, and I'm going to turn on center. I'm going to turn off my grid, and I'm going to go up to the left, and I'm going to select the preferences, and I'm going to change my model space to a white color, or a cream color, white color. Click OK, and now I'm going to draw a circle. So C, enter, and I draw that circle right there. Okay, and that is on the center line. And now if I change that over to border, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. That's not a rectangle. rectangle. And remember before I told you that there was that line weight option down in the status bar. So right now the line weight of both these lines looks the same, but if I click on that button down there, you can see that the border layer is much thicker than the center line layer. And if I deselect it, it goes back to looking the same. Now if I go up into this little drop down menu and I click on that circle, you can see that it looks like I've deleted that circle I drew, but it's just hidden for the moment. Okay, and now sometimes people go in and they accidentally freeze or lock a layer like this, and again all of a sudden they're going into the layers and they're trying to choose center, and it's not even allowing you to select it. I'm going center, it just goes nope border, center, nope border. Okay, well I need to go up here and unlock that. And now I can go in here and try again. No, it's still not allowing me to do it, so I need to go in there and unfreeze it as well. Okay, so now I should be able to go in there and check that and select that center layer and draw any shape that I want to with that. Okay, that should be enough. So let's get those layers finished and then we'll move on to the next section of this process. Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here, and we're going to continue creating the settings for our first template. And in order to find the list of all the different settings we can create, just go to the top menu bar and check Format. And layers we've already done. The color we don't really need to do, that's within the layers. The line type and line weight also within the layers, and transparency don't need to do, but we will set up our scale list now. So select scale list, and this window right here with all of our scales should pop up. Now we create all of our drawings in AutoCAD at a 1:1 scale, and then when we bring that drawing from the model space into the layout, we will then scale the drawing to fit in the selected paper size. So what we need to do is just add a few to this list that's already here, and it is in a specific order. So it goes 1:1, 1:2, 1:4, 1:5, etc. So here are the scales that we need to add that are not currently on that list. So notice that it says, and we'll do this, the first couple right here, 2:3. The paper units are 2. We're going to input an equal sign, and the drawing units are 3. Now all of the drawing units that are there right now start off like 1:1, 1:2, 1:4, 1:5, etc. So if we were to reduce this one down from 2 to 3, it would actually be like 1 to 1.5. And we want to keep it within the correct order there. Okay, so when I look right here, 1 to 1.5 would fit right in the middle of 1:1 and 1:2. So what you want to do is select the one that's before the new scale setting that you're going to put in, click on add, and then just type in 2 to 3, hit tab, and that should be a 2 equals 3, and tab. We're done with the first one. The next one is going to be 1 to 3, which is between 1 to 2 and 1 to 4. Now let's just say I accidentally put it in the wrong place, so I say add, and I want to go 1 to 3, tab, 1 equals 3, and tab. Now I can just take that one and literally just drag it up into its correct position now. So now it's 1 to 1, 2 to 3, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 5, etc. So there are roughly 10 or 11 or 12 other units that I want you to add to this. And then when you're finished, just click on OK. Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here, and let's continue with this template, and we're going to look at setting up some text styles. So sometimes we need to include dimensions or notes within our drawing, and we will want to call up specific text styles that will have information such as the height of the text, the width factor, and the angle. So it's best to set these up and have your template prepared with different text styles so that you don't have to create them every time you start a new drawing. So to do this, let's head up to the top into Format and select Text Style. So this window pops up right here, and we're just going to go down to the bottom left and say Add. So what is the text style? Well, again, here is the list of different text styles that we can make for this template, starting at 1.5 mm and going down to 500 mm with corresponding heights and angles that are all the same on the far column. And notice that the width factor is either 1.0 or 0.8. And in this case right here, we've got two text heights at 1.8. It's just one of them is going to have a width factor that's scaled down a little bit. So the letters or numbers, the text will be tighter together. This allows you to create text to fit in a confined space. So take a screenshot of this or come back to this screen, whatever you need to do in order to create all these layers. So I'm going to create the first three that were from the list, and then you'll be able to continue on from there. First thing I would recommend to do is when you've got this new style that's created is we're going to give it a name. So 1.5 mm, and now we're going to select its angle, which was 10, its height, which was 1.5, and its width factor is 1.0. Now, what we have to do is we have to make sure that every time we create a text style, we got to come down to the bottom right and click on Apply. And that sets it up so that it saves these settings. If you forget to click Apply, it will create the text style that you just created, but it won't put the new settings in. It'll use the settings from the previous one. So let's create a second one, Add, and this one is 1.8 mm, and we're going to go up here to text height and change that to 1.8. Notice that the angle and width factor both stay the same, and just click Apply. Now to make sure that it's working, click on the 1.5. You should see that it's 1.5, 1, and 10. Click on the 1.8 text style and it's 1.8, 1, and 10 right here. So we'll select a new layer. This is going to be 1.8 mm, and we called it narrow. And now up top, we're going to keep that text height. We're going to keep the angle. We're just going to change the width factor to 0.8 and hit Apply. Now all you need to do is go through that list and make all of the text styles that are on there. Don't forget to click Apply each time, and then when you're finished, we're going to there is no OK button here, so you can click on the close or the little red dot at the top left. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here, and now we're going to move on to a new set of settings called the dimension style. So we need to set up what our dimensions will look like once we've completed the drawing, and we need to apply dimensions and other text. Okay, so let's head up into the Format menu and select Dimension Style. And within here, we're just going to say Add. And we're going to give it a new name, so I'll put my name, you put yours, Voikin Engineering Dimension Style. And we'll click on Continue, and it takes us to the windows. There's 7 different windows that we can create new settings and modify current settings in. Let's go to the first one, lines, and we'll continue from there into symbols and arrows, text, fit, and primary units. We do not need to set anything in the last two here. Now, rather than me making all the settings and you watching me make them, I will just pause the video here, and then I will make all the settings, and then I will slowly go through them, and you can take screenshots or pause the video to make your settings look identical to mine. Later on, as you become more comfortable with the drawing application and you feel that you would be better off changing some of your dimension style to make the aesthetics and appearance and functionality, readability of your drawings better, then you just need to come back into this window and make those changes. All right, so I'm going to pause the video and we'll see you shortly. All right, everyone, well, I'm back. So here's the lines settings. So just you want to go through here and make sure that each one of those is set up exactly the same within your window right there. Move to symbols and arrows, then text, then fit, and finally the last one, primary units. All right, now once you've created all those settings, all you want to do is click on the OK button to make them permanent and hit close, and that's it, you're done. Actually, I'm just going to open up that really quickly. So dimension, actually you can go here, you can go to dimension and dimension style right here as well. And yeah, you want to make sure that this little greater than symbol right here is on the same line with the name of the dimension style you just created. So if I was to double click on the one that says standard, that becomes my default one, so it's going to go back to those settings. Now I can either double click or I can right click on it and say set current. And since we're doing that right now, I will close this one. We also want to do that with like our layers and our text style. So let's go here to layers and bring that back in here. And now if I just sort of go to this far left column and I click, it makes those three little lines. That's telling me that that's the default layer. I want to choose object layer as my default layer. So that means when I open up a new template, it's going to be ready to draw on the object layer. It's going to have Voikin engineering drawing style set as its default. And when I go here to the text style, I want, right now it's just set to this one down here, standard. I want to set that to 3.0. So again, I can double click or you can right click and say set current, and that is done. So I can close that window. Let me just double check really quickly. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so once you're done all those settings, we'll see you in the next video. Hey everybody, Mr. Voikin here, and let's move on to multi-leader style. So a leader is a line with an arrowhead pointing to an object, and behind the line there will be some text giving us some important information on whatever it happens to be pointing to. So let's head up to the top. We'll choose Format, Multileader Style, and the Manager window opens up. And just like we did with Dimension Style, we're going to add our new style, and we'll call it Voikin Engineering Leader Style, and continue. Okay, and we've this time, instead of 7 windows, we've got leader format, leader structure, and content. We got 3 windows, and just as we did in the last video, I'm just going to go through, well, you know what, this is quite easy right here. There's only 3 of them, so let's just get it done. So let's go into leader format, and just all you need to do is change the size to 3.0. That's the arrowhead size, and the break size on the leader at 2.0. That is done. Let's move to the next one, which is the leader structure. And in here, we want to change this to 3, so we'll have 3 leaders. The distance down here for the landing we'll set again to 2.0, and we will set this, remove the annotative, and set the scale at 1.0. Okay, and the last window, which is the content window, everything up top is going to stay the same. We're going to change the text height to 3.5 and the landing gap to 2.0 again. And that is it. Now all we have to do is click on OK. And close. And goodbye. Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here again, and this one's going to be super quick. We're just going to be looking at the point style. So the point style is basically if you just want to make a dot, like a point on your drawing, and it defaults to literally a dot, and it's very difficult to see that in most situations. So we're going to change that style by heading up to Format, changing the point style. And within here, you can see it defaults just to a dot, and we're going to change it to one of these other ones right here. So I'm going to select the one that is right there. Okay, and press OK, and done. That was super simple. Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here, and we have finished all of the settings that we need to create this template within the model space, but now let's deal with the layout. So down in the bottom left corner of your status bar, click on Layout 1, and that's going to bring up the default paper size, which is not what we want. So what I want you to do is type page, and there we go. We want to select this one, page setup, and we're going to go in there and create a new layer here, such as this one, Voikin A4. Now if that's already there or not, you guys won't have that obviously, but if you've got a layer that you want to get rid of, we can just say hit the minus sign right here, and now it's gone. And to create a new one, hit the plus sign, and I can recreate that, Voikin A4, and hit continue. That brings up this page setup right here. The first thing you need to do every time is change this to millimeters and ensure that this is 1:1 units. And on the printer, I want you to go select AutoCAD PDF high quality print, and make sure that it is selected to landscape right here. And then on the paper size, we're going to go find an A4 piece of paper, which in landscape would have the dimensions of 297 millimeters by 210 millimeters. So I just need to look down here until I find it. There's 297 by 210, the ISO A4. I want to click on that. Now, this one's giving us, see this dotted line that's right here? Anything outside of that dotted line is unprintable. So that may not work with the title block and borders that you've created. So we're going to go in here and see if we can find another one. And we'll move up here into the ANSI full bleed. I don't know, the ISO full bleed. We'll go with this one. And what do we want? 297 by 210. And let's see how that one looks. That's perfect. Okay, so we want this one right here. ISO full bleed A4. So full bleed means we're not going to have those non-printable sections. And that looks like the proper size. Now before we click OK, just always go back and double check that it's set to millimeters and 1:1, and click on the OK. And now we need to set the layout, this layout, to Voikin A4. So right click on it and set it as current and close. Now this little blue square in the bottom, that is my viewport. So I'm going to click on the outside border of that, grab the top right grip and drag it up near the top and click. And then over in the properties inspector, I'm going to change that to my view. So that's my viewport layer. And when you hit escape, it should be a thin green line going around there. Now let's double click on the inside with the left click. And that puts you into the window or the viewport looking into the model space. Okay, now I'm just going to show you really quickly that if I was in the model space here and I was to draw something like a circle, and now I go back to layout 1, we can see there's the circle right on the bottom. Now I want to bring my drawing, the full drawing, right into the middle of the screen. So remember, to do that, we can double click on the scroll wheel or type Z, enter, E, enter, and there's our circle. Now this might happen to you quite often, again, where it won't zoom in all the way or zoom out, or you can't move it left, right, up, or down enough, or sometimes your circle turns into a 20-sided object or however many sides there happens to be. Just type regen all and hit enter, and it goes back to the circular shape that it should be. Now what we want to do is we want to actually zoom out and get that grid sort of centered in the middle of our drawing like that, and as big as possible so that we can see it. Okay, now you're not going to want to have the circle in the middle like that, and we actually don't want the grid on in the layout because it will get printed. So we're going to go down to the status bar and turn that off, and there you go. Now last time I double clicked inside the drawing. To get outside the window, I can double click on the outside. Okay, now if I'm to zoom in and out when I'm in sort of the layout paper, it's the paper that I can move around or zoom in and out on. And if I now double click on the inside, I'm actually zooming in and out on the drawing that's in model space. So if I turn my grid on again, you can see it's down there as I was zooming in and out. So besides double clicking on the inside or double clicking on the outside, down in the status bar just to the left of the grid, there's a little toggle between model space and paper space. So right now I'm in model space, and I click on it, I'm in paper space, and I can go back to model space and go back to paper space. So you really have to make sure you're in the right spot when you start drawing. I usually just, if I want to draw on the paper and not on my drawing that's in model space, then I usually just make sure the paper is moving when I zoom in and out. Now if I switch back to the model space and actually make a circle right here, and I go back to the model, you can see there's that circle that I just drew. And if I delete the circle in model space and go back to the layout, you can see that circle is gone. If I go to the paper of the layout, and now I draw a circle just like I did before, if I go over to the model space, you can see it's not there because I've actually just drawn on the paper. Now if I want to delete that and I'm in paper, I can. If I happen to be in the model space and I try to select it, it's not allowing me to because I'm not actually there. I'm looking inside the viewport window into this model space, and there's nothing there. So I'm going to switch back to the paper and delete that because this is our template. I don't want any drawings whatsoever on there. The last thing I want to do is go down to the bottom, and I'm going to right click on there, and I'm going to say rename, and this is going to be A4, and enter, done. Okay, let's move to the second tab, and again, page setup, and we're going to make a new one called Voikin A3, and we'll set that to millimeters, 1:1. Set the printer to PDF high quality. Make sure it's on landscape, and we're going to go up to the top again to this ISO full bleed. And what we're looking for on an A3 is 420 by 297, A3 right there, and that looks great. Again, click, double click on A3 to make that the current paper style, close it, click on the viewport, drag it to the top, change the layer to view, escape, change to model space, double click to get the grid in the center where we want it, and then turn the grid off and change it back to paper space. Okay, go to the bottom, rename, and this is going to be A3. And now the A3 paper is set and the A4 paper is set, except I forgot to turn off that grid. So I'm just going to go back into model space, turn off the grid, and go back to paper space. And now on the bottom, I'm going to add a new tab because I want a third layout style for an A2. So add, and I'm going to might as well rename that right now to A2. Go into the middle, page setup, and add Voikin A2, continue, millimeters, 1:1, landscape, PDF high quality, and an A2 paper in landscape is 594 by 420. So I'm looking for an A2 594 by, where are you? A4, A2, 594 by 420, full bleed, and looking good. Okay, select that as my default, close, and follow the same steps. Drag the viewport window up to the top right, change it to the viewport layer, hit escape, make sure we go into model space, double click the scroll wheel to bring the grid into the center, centered in the middle, turn it off, and go back to paper space, and that is done. Okay, now before we exit out of here, we actually want to change back to model space, and there we go. Well, everyone, that is it. Our template is set up. Now, what we want to do is just make sure that all the windows are sort of set the way we want them to look, because that's how it will look every time we open it up. So you can see right here in my model space, that's where I'm selected to open up into, and on the object layer. And if I look over, my A4, A3, and A2 papers are sort of centered in my windows, looking nice. And now I need to save it. So head up to the top menu bar and choose File and Save As, which is Command-Shift-S. Okay. Now this window is going to pop up, and we're going to change it first of all to a, sorry, not right there, the file format. We're going to change to a .dwt. So we want to create this as a drawing template that we can use every time we create a new drawing in these modules. So I'm going to choose .dwt, and you can see the file extension changed up here. So I'm going to change this to Voikin Engineering Template. And where are we going to save it to? Well, documents, desktop, wherever you feel that you would like to save it. Just make sure it's a .dwt and click save. Now it's going to come up and ask you, do you want this to be in English or a metric measurement? You're going to choose metric, and then it's enter a template description. So I'm just going to say Voikin Engineering, and done. Hit enter, and that is finished. So it should be in my documents right now, and you want to go there and just verify that it has showed up there. Now I would also recommend dragging that template into your Google Drive so that no matter where you are and what computer you are on, you have access to that template in the cloud. Now we want to save it on this computer within the template folder of AutoCAD. So let's do this one more time. So Command Shift and S, that's going to bring up the Save As, and you can see now it should already change to where the template folder, .dwt, same name, and just click Save. Metric, and same thing, Voikin Engineering template. I don't know if I typed template last time, doesn't really matter. Close enough, and hit enter, and that is done. Now, if you were to close this out and quit the AutoCAD application, then reopen the AutoCAD application, now in the welcome window, it should be here as a new option. So there's AutoCAD.dwt, which is what we selected last time. Whoa, and there it is, Voikin Engineering Template.dwt, open. And as I told you before, it should open into the model space with all the settings that we had created before. Looks great. That's it. It's done. Video complete.